podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to Bit of an Animal, the South African Rugby Union show here on the Global Gainlines podcast network. On the panel this evening, it's Mark Telea's third cousin, once removed, Temi Kosi.
Evening.
It's the Bulls' Daisy herself, Christy.
Hi.
And it's our first ever professional athlete on the panel, Letha.
Hello, guys.
Awesome to have all of you here. Welcome back, Temi Kosi. And obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see, we've got two new faces. This is our first review podcast since we had our 50th episode. So thank you to everybody for coming with us on this journey so far. Before we actually start with the Stormers versus All Blacks game, which was very exciting, we'll give Christy and Letha an opportunity to tell our audience a little bit more about themselves. So start with you, Christy.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm currently based in London. Bulls supporter, but a huge South African women's rugby supporter. Aficionado, I like to think. Been watching the girls live as much as possible. I have traveled to London to see them before, based in London now, used to be based in Amsterdam. Have also had the opportunity to watch the Cheetahs, based in Amsterdam. And so, yeah, just a big rugby fan. Happy to be here.
And speaking of the Cheetahs, one of the people who was there that you were watching play live, Christy, Letha, who is now currently contracted to the Toyota Cheetahs. Thanks for being with us. Tell us a bit more about yourself.
Okay, guys. I'm Lita. I'm from Elliot, a small town in the Eastern Cape. I'm very enthusiastic about sports in general. I love athletics, cricket, football, and also rugby. Particularly rugby because it just moved me from the hopeless to be where I am right now. I'm currently at the Cheetahs now. I've previously played for the Shimlas, the University of Free State, and also in the Varsity Shield representing Walter Sisulu. So I've been in the sport as pipeline for a while, playing in the first division and also in the Currie Cup first division for Border Bulldogs. So I've been around playing in different competitions in South African rugby, and I'm proud to say I've moved around with this rugby thing, and I'm still enjoying it right now. So it's good to be here.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting looking at the screen though, because all of us that are in South Africa right now, myself in Cape Town, Temi Kosi in the Gauteng province, and Letha in Bloemfontein, we're all dressed very snugly. Whereas Christy was out in London, which is famous apparently for being cold and for my friends' bicycles getting stolen when they get back to the my poor friends, when they get back to the train station, they look for their bicycle. Someone took it. Yeah, and then we're freezing, and Chrissy's sort of a balmy 26 degrees Celsius. So Chrissy, it's not that I dislike. I just wish we could like swap places for a bit. Um, Before we actually start with the Stormers game, Letha, we have actually got a question for you from our Irish correspondent Adam Latham, who's a huge Ulster supporter. So he shot me a few questions on WhatsApp to just ask you. His first question was, what is Rowan Pienaar like as a coach?
Coach Brian is actually a very disciplined guy. I think if anyone would watch him play, you'd see how well prepared he was as a player. So I think he takes that through all his life. I think the way that he prepares the players and how much he sets standards. So he has very high standards for the players. He's very intentional, straight up person who'll tell you when you're not doing well and will tell you the reason why he drops you or even selects you. So he holds a very high standard for his players. And I think that pushes you guys. I think if you'd see him now, he still trains with the guys and tries to showcase. So you don't want to be run out by an older guy, and it actually does push us. But he's a really reliable coach who really wants the best for the players and the team. By the way that he puts up front his work ethic is very high, and just wants the best for the team. So
Awesome.
that's the
I think Adam would be glad to hear that. And then obviously Adam also asked you, Does he ever mention Ulster? Because Adam's obviously a died in the wool Ulster supporter.
Not much. I think he's trying to get maybe past his career, but
Mm,
a, a big part of his career was happening that side. I mean, Ulster was a
mm,
family a union for him, and he
mm.
has of things while at Ulster. So I think maybe the way he approaches rugby and decision making within the field is some stuff that he actually tried out at Ulster, and are things that really do make sense in terms of tactical planning regarding on how you play territory and how important that is. So we learn those kind of aspects about the game, which really do play a big role on how you kick contestables and why you want teams to be under pressure in their own half, just to try and force them to make mistakes there. Then it gives you a small space where you can attack and also get opportunities in their area, like in their position or territory.
Yeah.
So I think more there.
I can relate with Adam though, because Adam feels very, very sad when Rowan Pienaar left Ulster and went to go play for Montpellier. And I felt the same when Rowan Pienaar left Sharks to go play for Ulster. So we're the same in that respect. Although me and Adam relate a lot because a lot of players who played for the Sharks played for Ulster at some point, like Ludek, I used to say at the Lions, so Temikosi can relate, and Johan Muller, so on and so forth. Guys, first game on our billing this evening, and we'll go to Temikosi first for this because he's got the insight from New Zealand rugby, although he is South African. Um, New the All Blacks overcome the Stormers in a score I thought would happen, Temikosi, but not in the manner in which I thought it would happen. Because from my perspective, New Zealand started effervescently in attack in the first 7 minutes, passing that ball in those conditions and moving. And I thought, oh, is this going to be a long night for the Stormers? And then the Stormers actually played very intelligent rugby for the next 30 minutes and kept within the game. And unfortunately, I think the Stormers lost to New Zealand because Stormers were disrupted by some injuries just before the game. Sadie Sande, unfortunately, a very good player, couldn't come off the bench. He was then replaced by a very young guy who I, to the best of my knowledge, didn't get come on. So Nurtling Fisher had to play the whole game. And Nurtling Fisher, a good player, but to play the whole game against New Zealand while you're in the middle of your pre-season training is sort of a struggle. So look, valiant effort from the Stormers, but like we saw some really good stuff from both teams, and especially that last 20 minutes from New Zealand. That was really, really exciting for the 47,330 people official that were at the stadium. And the the tickets were minimum 650 rand. So wow. So the gate was over 30 million rand.
Okay, I didn't know that. But yeah, for the most part, I was happy with the game. I I have to agree with you. I really think that the Stormers probably could have won this game had all the injuries not have happened. If Iman Card played the whole match, um, okay, I understand it was a 6-2 split, and that's the card they chose. I mean, that kind of costed them at the end when Daimani needed to move to wing, and that's probably the period where the All Blacks kind of just took over the momentum. But for the most part, I was watching that game. I'm like, the All Blacks can't catch a ball. They can't catch a ball. How are they gonna do this? But then Argentina happened. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe the catching the ball part is not gonna be an issue. But yeah, the scrum was under pressure. Like for the fact that this is the Stormers without their starting choice pack, and it still put them under pressure. I'm kind of concerned. I'm like, okay, how are we gonna do this when we're playing against the Bucks? But yeah, overall, it was a good game. It was a good game. It opened up at the end when Ricky Ioane moved to 13. It seemed like he would. I think I need to apologize because I was talking bad about him the last time I was here. He kind of redeemed himself, and I was like, I was kind of impressed. Not the part where he was at wing, but when he came to 13 at the okay at the end of the game. But then again, Diamani was also there, but he kind of put a spark in the All Blacks, and they seemed like they were cohesion. And I think Rainey probably said this before the game, is that they wanted everyone to get game time, everyone to get cohesive, and everyone to get used to the play. And I think as the match went, you kind of saw that they are still looking for their best first choice 15 on which one they're going to be, how they going to play. But otherwise, I think the Stormers put them to the hammer up until they couldn't. I was really hoping it looked like a tight game, and it looked like the Stormers were going to do something. But eventually, New Zealand took over. The momentum went with them. When the bench came on, they just took over. Yeah, and yeah, good game, good game. I want to say I'm I'm not impressed. It was the way the All Blacks played. It was kind of poor, but overall, I think they can be happy.
Yeah, it's a lot of disruptions for the Stormers losing those key players. Letha, on the back of that man and the match performance, Branas has been selected for the Springbok team. Your thoughts?
Um, uh, um, Judging from the performance, I think he really deserves that. Not considering the age, but I mean performance and just showing that form after getting a couple of injuries, coming back, getting injured again, going back to play, in a highly anticipated game against the All Blacks. And him just disrupting the breakdown there and making so many tackles at once, just to make sure that the Stormers put pressure on the All Blacks. I think he does deserve that. He's showing really good form at the moment, and I think he is well deserving. Also, looking at, I think now Sia's been injured, and maybe it's quite suitable for him to be in the squad. But I think it is a good call for him.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have to keep the game in context. This is the first game of the tour for New Zealand. They've brought over a 44-man squad. Um, it's tough to say. I personally maybe think that the coaching staff thinks that the team they picked against Ireland in New Zealand is quote unquote the first team. There's obviously a lot of talk about Duplessis Karifi not being there. I think maybe they didn't select him because his first name is Duplessis. Or the fact that they said, I mean, me and Timikosi went over this in the preview pod for the Greatest Rivalry, that the New Zealand coaching staff said their reasoning was that they were trying to take a slightly different approach as it relates to the loose forwards. So, and then obviously it's a Stormers team missing a lot of guys who are with the national team, with the Springboks. A couple of guys got released, like Nchunu played quite well off the bench. So they could at least change the loose head prop, but unfortunately they couldn't change the tight head prop because it was a young guy on the bench. Didn't really have a lock on the bench per se. And then, like Themi, because he said they chose the 6-2 split. So it's a mixed team on both ends. It would be interesting to see what like a full strength Stormers team could do against a New Zealand team. But even then, the New Zealand team was somewhat experimental here and there. It was a more slightly rotated, give everybody a chance. I think with the three games, Stormers, Sharks, Bulls leading up to the first Test match, their whole 44-man squad will actually get a chance at least to play a bit in all those games. So, Kirsty, um, interesting game. Did you think see this outcome going into it?
I actually didn't expect the Stormers to hold their own as much as they did. I did live in Cape Town, so I have watched a lot of Stormers rugby and just didn't expect how well they actually mix the youth and the experience across the board. I was disappointed to see a couple of the injuries. I mean, I think Duvenacher broke his arm in the end. So it was, yeah, it was actually a lot more physical than I expected from what is so-called an experimental All Blacks team. There were one or two things that I think the All Blacks need to work on, but I mean, we all do, like Tim and Nkosi said about the kicking game and the aerial defensive work. I thought it wasn't great in the All Blacks game, and then I thought, yeah, great, that's going to be really good for us for the Springboks. But then I watched the Argentina game, so swings and roundabouts, I suppose.
Yeah, and we'll get to the Argentina game a bit later. That was also somewhat of a very rotated Argentina team versus a somewhat rotated Springbok team. Before we actually get to that game, well, this was New Zealand's first game in the tour, but they'll have a game tomorrow night again. We're recording this on Monday, the 10th of August. I'll bring that game. I'll bring that team actually up on the screen here. They're taking on my Sharks, also ravaged by injury. Get those excuses in early. Um, against a somewhat more on paper, and the game's not played on paper because I mean, in all seriousness, myself and Jacob Bashford did the preview pod for this weekend for the mostly for the South Africa Argentina South Africa game. But when we looked briefly at the Stormers New Zealand game, we thought on paper the New Zealand team would run them over. But the Stormers showed a lot of character, and I think they also showed the fact that they had more cohesion. The players the Stormers lose to the national team are mostly backline players. So their front row is actually quite cohesive against the New Zealand team, which was somewhat a rotated cohesive team. Sorry, it's a rotated touring team. But yeah, we'll go to Tim Nkosi first because you can see the team on the screen. Damon McKenzie's back. Jordie Barrett's back of Leinster fame. Tim Nkosi. Caleb Clark's actually starting. Your favorite Tupavai's out on blindside flank. Wallace Atiti was supposed to play against the Stormers. He's there. He pulled out at the last minute. Thank I only found out about this a few hours ago on the one WhatsApp group that sort of like my prayers have been answered and Cameron Oigard had to pull out the game because I was having nightmares seeing Cameron Oigard come off the bench and running through the Sharks. So he's been replaced by Curtis Ratimer. Ethan Blackadder's back. Tim Nkosi, early thoughts on tomorrow night's game?
I'm actually happy to see Kyle Preston start. I've been wanting to see him I want to say in a big game, in a professional game, where to actually see that who is the other number 9 when Roigard is not there. It kind of seems like right now it's Curtis Ratema, or Noah Hotham, but no one has really cemented their choice. So it will be nice to see Kyle Preston play. But for the most part, I think the center combination, it's the usual. I would say, this is what I would say about the backline. I think actually going over, I think this is probably their first choice team. If you put in Adi and Roigard, it kind of, and Will Jordan maybe and one of the wings, that kind of completes the whole squad. But I think this is basically their inform team or the team that they've been using for ever since they've been in Razor's time. So I'm thinking this is a much more cohesive team for the All Blacks. They probably should be a little bit better. Posey didn't play well last game. I see him is going to come off the bench. Is it Semi? Semi also didn't quite play the last game as much as I wanted him to play. So it would be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, strong team. And just to go and jump on the shock side of things, I think they have a very youthful backline. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out because I'm looking at their whole backline and I'm thinking that they took a gamble and went with like, let's go with the kids. The forwards at least have a little bit of experience here and there, but I think mostly they went with youth. It will be interesting to see Nanu play. I'm really hoping that he gets like a good 20 minutes and maybe a try, just for the sake of things. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on the team.
Yeah. Did you mention number 22? Because I remember you mentioning it before when he didn't get selected for the Nations Championship squad for New Zealand. You know how to pronounce his name. He plays for the Hurricanes. Am I correct? I'm mistaken in that regard.
Oh yeah, Tawa Tawa now. I would have liked to see him Tawa Tawa now play over. I want to say over Jody Barrett, maybe him and Kunchupai. Let's see how that combination would go. Actually maybe with Leicester, but okay, Leicester's currently not here. But maybe Kunchupai and Tawa Tawa now would be a dynamic um what is a dynamic center partnership, especially with Fihai on the back. So I'm really hoping to see how it goes. But it seems like he's not one of the favorites and I'm not even sure if he's gonna get game time against the Box. I think maybe they just brought him in for this type of games.
Yeah, I appreciate you also mentioning the very youthful Sharks team. I'll speak a bit more about that just in a moment later. We'll go to Christy and then Letha. You guys can give us your thoughts on both these teams, or I just step out just for a second.
So when I first saw the All Blacks team, I genuinely thought, wow, they're probably going to blow the Sharks away. But yeah, there's some things I guess that are a little different for them. So Satiti was out, I think, because he was ill last week. So it
Hmm.
is nice to see him back. I am a very big Damon McKenzie fan, and I think it's just an attitude thing. So always nice to see him. Love him at fullback, so happy with that. In general, yeah, Geordie Barrett had a great season. What was it, 2 seasons ago at Leinster? So nice to see him back too. And then I am also a huge Ethan Blackadder fan. So I know my dad was a very big fan when he was of his father. So have watched Ethan's career quite closely throughout. So nice to see him back. I know um, uh, mentioning that he'll probably come on in place of Tupavai, but you never know what's going to happen there. And then, yeah, I guess Ratima, like you say, Ratima on for as the replacement scrum half. So we'll see how it goes. And then that was also my first thought when I saw the Sharks team was that backline is so young, and it's going to be really exciting to see how they move the ball around. I enjoyed Vusi Moyo's debut for the Springboks. I thought he was good. And then in general, yeah, mixture of experience in the front, but yeah, I think it looks good. And like everybody else, also excited to see Mononu because, growing up as a rugby watcher, I used to watch a lot of Super Rugby when I was growing up in South Africa because obviously the time differences and we were in the competition and stuff. So having grown up, having watched him for most of his career, that's going to be quite fun, I think, to see him play on our side for once. It's going to be pretty good.
Letha, your thoughts on both these teams?
Just looking at how they selected the All Black side. I'm looking at the approach of the All Black side. I think selecting Damien McKenzie at fullback with Ruben Love at 10. It's a more let me say mature backline in terms of trying to get knowing when to run and when to kick. So I'm just looking forward to how they're gonna try and run the Sharks down. Obviously, it's a youthful side that they're playing against. I'm really a big fan of Wallace Titi as well. I want to see him play more All Blacks tests just to get him to grow and become more matured, and just to link up with the other legendary guys in the All Blacks side like Audi Sevilla. So I think it's a well balanced side, and I think I'm just looking at the approach, man. I think they're trying to run the ball and just give those guys a bit of space, dent them up front, and then just move the ball around to the guys who can finish like Caleb Clark and them. And then also looking at the Shark side, it's as you guys said, Tim Ngozi and Christy, it's a youthful side. It's an exciting backline. I can say it's an exciting backline, and just the forwards up front. I think they're trying to bring guys who are really gonna bring some dominance and physicality within the game, so that those guys can bring momentum for them, and then just give the ball to the young boys and let them just play. So it's exciting to see Vusi there and the young guys, Yaku Williams and all Julenzo. I think I'm looking forward to that backline particularly to just move the ball around, and hopefully we can just test how the strength versus strength with the guys running the ball, how it's going to look for them. Hopefully it's not going to be too humid and not too much stop starts, man, scrums, and I just want to see the boys just move the ball around, and later on in the game just bringing on guys like Man Nano obviously to just see the composure and how he gets to lead these youngsters to try and manipulate and make sure they can get points against his former or his national side. So it's going to be a good test. It's going to be a good test.
Yeah, Tuesday night kickoff quite early. I hope I'll be at home in time to see it. I think I've got a run actually scheduled, but yeah, glad. So the Sharks team is quite youthful. And it's because the coaching staff really backs the youth. However, there were also some disruptions, as there were disruptions with the New Zealand team. Unfortunately, Vincent Tutuka, who's both in the Springbok squad and with these types of tours, was released just for this game to play against New Zealand to bolster the Sharks team, and he was scheduled to play off the bench. Unfortunately, he's got a bit of an injury. I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it was a concussion picked up in training. So Corne Raal takes his place, which is another young guy. I mean, Vijay Duka by no means old, just a few years older than Corne Raal and a Springbok at that. So yeah, with Sekatelo Siyaya and Vusi Moyo starting, if we go through the whole backline, the oldest person is Mari Costa, and he came through the Sharks youth system. He played last year in Japan. I don't know how many in this Japanese second division. I don't know how many games he played, but he's actually returned after 1 year. So it's Sekatelo Siyaya, who I saw along with Vusi Moyo play in the South African under 20 series here in Cape Town when they played at Rondebosch Boyseye, Wynberg Boyseye, and then Paul Roos. Um, Although Sekatelo, I saw him in person, but he didn't actually play any of those games. He was in the Bordeaux squad, but he didn't play. Donovan Don, a new acquisition from the very good Boland Cavaliers team, so that's interesting to see. And then Lorenzo Julius at outside center, massive speculation that he's already signed to depart from us to the Stormers, which is not going down too well with me, but we'll see if those rumors are correct. There's no actual confirmation on that. And then Lily Bester, who's come through the Shark system, very good wing and outside center. Struggled last year with injuries, unfortunately, but glad to see him back. It just yes, Vusi had a great game for the Springboks in his Springbok debut, but he was surrounded by a very mature, structured team. So I just don't want people, and we see this a lot in professional sports, but in rugby in particular, people praise somebody when they have a good game, but if they have just one off-color game and then all of a sudden we're like throwing people under the bus. So I don't want to see that from anybody. Shark supporters or Springbok supporters in general do that to Vusi Moyo, because you got to understand is he's going up against a very, very good New Zealand team, arguably in my estimation, slightly better than the one that we saw in Cape Town. And he's then surrounded by a very youthful backline, and his forwards, though good, are still sort of a more also in the middle of a preseason type vibe. For example, not only is Vincent Tutuka missing from this team, having been announced, but also one of our like primary, if not our best lock right now, uh, Van Heeren, Emil Van Heeren. He was scheduled to be in the team, but he's actually had to pull out as well with a knock. So Dion Slabbert had a fantastic game. We'll talk about the Currie Cup a bit later. He had a good game, scoring a try against in Boland, so not a bad player in his own right. But it is more of a not quite the first full team-ish Sharks the team as well. We've got a lot of injuries. I would have loved to see Bongi either come off the bench or play in this game. It's nice to see guys like Liam. I think that's what happened when I saw the team at first. My eye actually went to the replacement front row, and though I rate Liam van Wyk, I rate Rambo Kubeka a lot, and it's not just because I got to talk to him in Cape Town the other day. And I rate Ngobese a ton. He won the World Cup with the under 20 Springboks last year, and he has had a really good Currie Cup so far. And I think he had a really good game against in Boland as well. I feel like it's going to be tough for them, even though the Stormers really stood up to the All Blacks on Friday night in Cape Town. I still feel like this extremely youthful front row is going to have their work cut out against them for when they go up against New Zealand on Tuesday. Look, we wish them the best, but I'm just being like honest about my assessment of the task that lay ahead of them. Also nice to see Matt Mayo get a game. He's a very good loose forward that we've sort of developed. Ivan van Zyl is more of the senior scrum half on the bench. It's interesting, very similar to what the Stormers did. Stormers had the very young guy starting at 9 and the more veteran coming off the bench. Lewin Gillemeier, he gets a chance. I rate him. At the end of the year, unfortunately, his contract's going to end with the Sharks, and he's already signed a pre-contract with the Bulls, so we wish him well. But of course, the other end of the coin is that the Sharks have actually signed Baby Bok captain Belele from the Bulls, and he's currently playing for the Bulls in the Currie Cup, because we have to wait for his contract to expire for him to actually then come through to play with the Sharks. And Belele is such a good player. I suspect he'll play some role with the Sharks in the URC and the EPCR Challenge Cup and the Challenge Cup this year, along with Letha. Yeah, hopefully we haven't been drawn in the same. Have we been drawn in the same group? No, I don't think so. Been great. Remember when we were drawn in the same group a few years ago, and then Letha's team
So
actually beat us in Bloom. Asses.
with a strong Springbok started Sharks side.
Exactly. I posted the and then because he can attest to this, I posted the highlights again on the WhatsApp group saying like, look at the Sharks team, look what we fielded and we lost to Bloom. We lost to the Cheetahs and Bloom. What the hell's wrong with us? Anyway, but it was a pretty good Cheetahs team as well. So look, we look forward to this game. It starts off in South African time, 7 o'clock. Damn guys. I need to go to my club run. I'm gonna have to probably skip the club run. Guys, we'll now review the Springbok game against where we took on Argentina in Buenos Aires. And if you watch the preview show with myself and English presenter Jacob Bashford, we gave Argentina no chance in hell, and they proved us. So let me just put this slice of humble pie on my plate here. If I can actually find the slide with the actual game on it. Oh yeah, I forgot I was going to do this. Because that game was on the other side. We'll go to that game in a moment. That was on Saturday, so there's Monday. Internet, don't fail me now. Yeah, I think because we'll go to you first. We only won by 7 points, but we've learnt a lot of lessons.
We did. I think both teams played this match trying to prove to all of us that this is an actual serious game. This is not a warm-up match for the All Blacks or anything. They were both kind of serious about this game. They put their hearts and soul into it. Yeah, Argentina met us physically, guys. Like they seemed like they had solutions for every little plan that we had. And like the Argentina and England game, as time went on, they kind of faded away. And yep, at the end, they almost had a chance to draw the match, but I think it's classic Argentinian. I think they were running out of passion, and as soon as that started weighing down, South Africa kind of took over. But they gave us a run for our money. Like the first half was tough. The I was watching the match, thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, okay, okay, this seems physical. Like we can't get around anything that they are doing, but at the end, our defense held. Um, when the bench came in, the ball seemed like we had better momentum. I was
Did we lose them because of it?
a good game. I'm not sure what is.
Mm.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we just lost you for a second. That's fine. You can go. You can go. Mhm. Okay, we'll allow because
But I
he's
guess I'm coming back from the ad
yeah,
break. But yeah,
yeah. You can go on because we can hear you.
I lost my train of thought. But yeah, Argentina really gave us a tough match. They really bullied that physically. It didn't seem like, and for the most part, this was like a changed Argentinian team. This was like a young Argentinian team, but they really brought their game. And Senti Carreras, what a player! What a player! He was. I saw him at 15, sometimes fielding the kicks. Oh, he was amazing. I'm really not sure how they want to play him with Albonos and Miller. I mean, with Malia also. I don't know what combination needs. All three of them needs to be on the field at somehow. Like they need Philippe. Come on, come up with some sort of solution there. But yeah, good game, good game.
Yeah, it was interesting because I think I didn't factor in enough the fact that so many of the South African players were starting. Well, one, we're playing away from home. Yes, it's a sort of a rotated Argentina team as well. Some of it they purposefully rotated. That was their decision, and some of it was their players were suspended because they were disrespectful to the ref at the end of the game against England. The game against England, by the way, this is weird. when Argentina came into rugby union, they were like the plucky underdogs, and we were all kind of like also rooting for them. We were like, yeah, look, it's Argentina versus Australia. Hopefully, Argentina pulls something off. But in the last 3 months, Argentinian teams in general, and when I say in general, I mean their football team and their rugby team, seem to be decided that like, look, we're just gonna act like dicks, and then like hopefully people still back us, and then that wasn't happening at all. They actually lost a lot of it's less so supported, less sort of like neutral people picking them as the third team. So there was that factor. And then from the South African perspective, look, it was super windy. It was a nice atmosphere at the game. It's interesting how you can see the highway on the side of the stadium. Even though the stadium wasn't completely full, there seemed to be great atmosphere there. I like the Argentina Los Pumas mascot because it reminds me of the Jaguares mascot because it's not it's kind of like the Cheetahs mascot, Letha, where it's like it's more like my nieces and nephews go like, is that the teddy bear on the side of the field? Because it looks kind of cute, and then it's like dancing and things like that. Something my brothers and sisters' kids would like to see, right up and down, anamorphic sort of teddy bear and that type of thing. And then as it relates to South Africa, I think one aspect of why we necessarily have the game all our own way. Yes, we're playing away, but we had a lot of guys coming back from injury. We had a lot of combinations, and someone can say, "Oh well, Kobus Reinach and Sasha Feinberg and Gomezulu have played alongside one another for the Stormers quite a few times this past season, but not of late. They're both coming back from injury, so there's that aspect. I think maybe as much as I like Andre Estes and he had an up and down game, but he had to also adjust the fact that there were like new people around him. It was an all Sharks backline, by the way. It was Apaleli Fassi at the back. It was Ethan Hooker as well as Edwin van der Merwe, but they hadn't played with each other that much as well. So there was sort of inconsistencies. I've read and heard from friends and family of like critique of Apaleli Fassi's game this season for the Springboks. And yes, he's had sort of an up and down ish form for the Springboks, but we set a high standard. I still very much rate him. Obviously, I'm biased because Apalele Fase is a Sharks player, and I watched this guy make his debut. I've watched all the highs and lows in his career, and there have been lows at times where he's lost form here and there. But I've said this numerous times on this podcast and other times. Progress is not linear. You
Mhm.
don't. This isn't how your career goes. It doesn't do that. It goes up and down, and we see this in MMA as well. People are like, oh, but the default thing in South Africa is the minute somebody has a slightly poor game, all of a sudden they're a bad player. So let's just sort of cool our jets as it relates to that. There was some disruption or like newness in terms of the forwards as well, so that the forwards set the platform for the win. So I'm glad to get the game. Sorry, I'm glad to get the win. Lisa will go to you because I'm glad to get the win, but a little adversity going into the rugby's greatest rivalry isn't necessarily a bad thing.
Indeed, it's not. Just to look back at the Argentinian game, I think the biggest thing was just fluidity. I think because a lot of the players are coming back from injury, so a lot of them haven't played a couple of games. So you could see, like with Sasha as well, fatigue kicking in within maybe the 20th minute. So there were a lot of disruptions regarding that, and I think it also affected just the continuity within the game. You could see when they're trying to get momentum, then they lose it from just uncertainty and just trying things out with kicking and also passes or not landing. So I think that was the most frustrating part about the game. But I think it's just, a winning team always has this habit or mindset of finding a way to do this. I mean, we were almost thinking we probably will draw or lose this game, but somehow the boys were able to get the bench to come on and just give us a bit of an impact, which boosted us to get a couple of points just before we close the game off. So it's still a game to be proud of. Just to like Rassi said after the game that is happy with the guys that performed and played. Just for 40 minutes, 60 minutes was at least what he needed from them just to get them getting to the groove and just start playing because we need to prepare for the All Black side. So it was tough, but I think just getting game time and just getting the bodies and making decisions again within the field is what's important for us here. And I think they did well just to hold us on, not to lose the game. And I think now we have to look forward and just prepare for the next international game, which are the All Blacks. So, yeah.
Yeah, which will be on the 22nd of this month. I will also give credit to Argentina. They it wasn't just the South African Springbok team misfiring. It was also the Argentinian team showing them that like, oh, you might not be familiar with Super Rugby, what do you call it, Americas and that type of
Super
thing.
Rugby.
Um, or some of the names on the team sheet, but they also have a lot of passion for rugby, and they showed it, and they showed a lot of character in almost pulling off a draw, if not a win. Christy, your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I thought Argentina found a lot of ways to quite effectively shut down some of our attacking options. And I think that was a bit of a surprise because, like you say, not a lot of us watch Super Rugby Americas, and we're maybe not as familiar with some of the players. So I think having seen them shut down some of those attacking options so effectively, maybe a little bit of a worry. But again, it's guys coming back from injury. It's guys trying to kind of refine their way into the side and all of that kind of stuff. I just wonder how much the wind in the stadium, because of the way that the stadium is structured, where it's got that one very high side and then the lower sides on either side and then just a regular stand. I wonder how much the handling errors, the wind contributed to the handling errors and the kicking issues within that stadium, because it's not a stadium that for us is a traditional rugby stadium. So that was my thought during the game, kind of the whole time. I do think that I do want to do a special shout out to Cameron Hanekom because as a Bulls supporter, I'm always very proud when he does well. And it's nice to see someone, trying to make a claim for the number 8 jersey, even though Rassie Erasmus has said straight up, Visa is his first choice. But I'm glad after Hanekom struggles with injuries and all of that to see him come back and make such a statement in the game. And then just a special mention to Pablo Matera, who I have loved for his whole career and his wonderful 50-22, because it's not often that you see a forward do that. So that was just nice to see.
Letha, are forwards allowed to kick at the Cheetahs?
Look, it's not something that you say to a forward. I think the coaches do that to tell them not kick. But you've got forwards that surprisingly have the skill to kick a ball. You see, like Pablo Montero did. So you do get forwards who just take the risk and just play with just so much instinct where if you see the space is available, you should take it either way.
Mm. I mean, Timikosi, you must be very well versed with Pablo Matera because he spent 1 or 2 seasons with Crusaders and he won Super Rugby title. Of course, if I signed with the Crusaders, I'd get a Super Rugby title.
I think anyone that signs with the Crusaders is like most likely going to get a a Super Rugby title at some point. Like just being the team. But yeah, that 50-22 was nice. I think it's always nice when he takes over, especially like in Argentina. Have you noticed when he's like maybe when they're going through like a rough patch in like momentum and he goes like, you know what, I'm just gonna take this ball and just kick it there, and it worked out.
Weirdly, Lavanini had a pretty solid game, and we'll be seeing more of him because he signed with the Stormers. Lisa, we'll go last to you. Unfortunately, Captain Fantastic Siya Kolisi pulled up with a different hamstring. It wasn't the same hamstring that he was rehabbing, that he came back from injury for. How do you think this is going to sort of like have a ripple effect with Branas having been brought into the game, and as it relates to the Stormers as well? Because the Stormers set up with guys who can play open side would be like Paul de Villiers, Siya Kolisi, Branas, and maybe some other sort of guys in the system.
Um, Look, I think they still do have a couple of guys who can cover open side flank. I think they also do rate Marco van Staden at 6.
Mm.
Uh, there's guys who Paul de Villiers has been playing well for the box since he's been there. So I think it's not going to be a hassle for them. Obviously, with leadership as well, there's guys who also played that leadership role within the team. So it might be a knock for them, especially for Sia, who also wants to get back and just to stake his claim. Obviously, now there's been chats, but I think they're a well balanced side with good leaders as well. So it is a dent for just getting guys to get some game time, like Sia, who hasn't played yet. So it's up for him, but I think the squad is quite well balanced and has a couple of guys who will step in there and just make sure they do their part for the side.
Yeah, I would also give a shout out to Pepsi Buthelezi, who's been doing really good work at open side for the Sharks, having moved from playing mostly eighth man. I think within the Springbok setup, you never know who might sort of be there in key moments. Just because someone is not in the broader squad right now doesn't mean they can't eventually sort of. I mean, we've just seen Dion Fourie get called up at and in a couple of weeks time is going to be turning 40. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. Also, guys, this wasn't the only Springbok team that played on Saturday at a nice and early 4 a.m. South African time, 3 a.m. where Christy is finds herself. The South African women's rugby team, which has been doing like fantastic work since before the most recent World Cup, but their profile in South Africa has gotten a nice boost from the World Cup, which I'm really pleased about. They took on the Fijian women's team, and they came away with a tidy win. Christy, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, 55-12. It was quite something. I did wake up at 3 a.m. and I didn't have any streaming issues because I think I watch it in a way that maybe I shouldn't mention on the podcast. And but yeah, I the only streaming issues I had were generally little bits and bobs that I think came from Fiji's broadcast side rather
Mm.
than anything to do with the actual streams. So that was great. But yeah, first ever senior South African national side to tour Fiji, which was really exciting. So got a new trophy and everything, Ubuntu Bula trophy, which is really nice. Obviously, as South Africans, we know what Ubuntu means. You know, I am because you are. But Bula is basically Fiji's version of Ubuntu. So they use it as a greeting. So they'll say Bula to you. And it means, wellness and good health for you and all of that kind of stuff. So really exciting to mix those two parts of our culture, which I think are very similar. Yeah, it was a phenomenal game. It was really, really good to have some of the more well-known players come back. Um, Hele, obviously the big headline there, coming back from a hand injury that she got when she was playing for the Boland Damas. And then Lendelwa Gwala came back from a calf injury. And then we had Zintle Mpupa, who came back in the center, hasn't played for the South African national side since the quarterfinal in the Rugby World Cup. So that was quite interesting to see. Um, Really amazing to watch the girls. I mean, a huge win. And obviously that leads really nicely to for the future where the team is trying to build specifically up for 2029 because the goal is in 2029 to win a medal. And the WXV, which is also starting to happen from 2 weeks' time. No, sorry, in October. Um, then that'll be something that they also use as a base. I'm actually going to watch the girls in September play Wales at Cardiff Arms Park, so that's going to be really great. I think for the WXV, we'll probably have a more senior side. We had one debutante, but two in this broader squad. 10 Bulls Daisies, 5 Western Province girls, and 4 girls from the Sanlam Boland Damas, and then kind of an even spread across the rest in the 26 women's squad. So it's been quite interesting. Obviously, the Bulls Daisies is the first professional women's rugby union in South Africa. It's a bit difficult to break out of that right now for the coaching staff, but they are taking in August an SAA team to Brazil. And most of those players are coming out of the other unions. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of what they do. That side is actually going to be led by Yaki Silier, who has just signed for Toulouse in France. So
Oh,
for
that's
their
good.
for their women's team. So it's going to be quite interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. Just to mention, uh, Fiji scored 2 tries, 1 conversion. We scored 9, made 5 conversions. I think Libby left her kicking boots at home because she only kicked 1 conversion successfully, and then they passed the kicking duties over to Behandra Dolph, who was playing at fullback. So not really sure what happened there. I think Libby Janssen van Rensburg became the 12th Springbok women's captain, and I think just the extra pressure, the extra responsibility maybe was a little put something a little bit heavy in the boots. So let's see.
I mean, sometimes when you play when you're part of the more dominant side, your kicking might not be full on radar. Because I mean, the first game of the SA Under 20 series when the Baby Box played Chile in Rondebosch, we nearly put 100 points on the Chilean Under 20 team, and Fusimoyo's kicking wasn't that super accurate, but he had a lot of conversions to kick. So on the day, someone might say, "Oh, why isn't he kicking more accurately?" It's like he has to kick for conversion like 12 times this game. At some point, he's gonna go like let's just focus on just moving the ball or something, that kind of thing. So it is what it is. I didn't, and then the games that were more closer, as the games went on, the games that were more closer, his kicking then went to like close to 100%. Why? Because there was like a lot on the line now, that type of thing. So there is that aspect to it. As we relate to Chrissy mentioning the other teams other than the Bulls Daisies, the Bulls Daisies are fully professional. The Western Province women's team is semi-professional, and the rest of the teams are all amateur. And you might think that that means every women's Super League is going to be Bulls versus Western Province, which was not the case. Why? Because the second best team in South Africa as it relates to women is the EP Queens. And Lisa, you grew up in Eastern Cape. There seems to be a wealth. There's a wealth of good rugby players from the Eastern Cape, both men and women. But as it relates to the women's rugby, the EP Queens are doing like they are making the most of an ideal situation, and they're literally the second best team in the country, and they're amateur.
Yeah, look, I've actually watched and looked out for like women's rugby around in the Eastern Cape. So specifically with the border region and also with the EP. So they have these club teams around the city or town where these girls are so enthusiastic. So they look into watching and playing rugby with guys. And so I think the little talent they have with handling a ball and giving it to the next person starts from netball and just trying to play with the guys. And so it's so instinctual when they move into the environment. So even though they're in amateur teams, but they're able to move the ball and try and get into space. So you'll see the more athletic players or women's side or also physical. You'll get those physical women players and also just athletic. They're able to move, run, and also agile. Because I don't know whether it's from them playing multiple sports, but I think just as talent or a gift of having a ball in their hand and moving it around and also running with the ball is just so natural. But I do think like the clubs now are really trying to invest more in having women's side, and I think it's very good because those players, it looks like the Eastern Cape is actually the hub because they'll take maybe a number of women players and move them around maybe to the pool side, Poland, but you get another five girls who are coming through and they're actually young, but they're still coming through and they have the potential. So I don't know. It's just maybe it's the Eastern Cape water. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, that's actually a good point because if you look at the Boland Damas team, you look at the Bulls Daisies team, you look at the Western Province team, how many of those players, the percentage of players within those people's teams who originally were from the EP Queens is significantly high. Seriously, if you like just go through the team and go like, oh, where'd you start out? Did you start out in Wisdom? No, not Eastern Cape. So look, shout out to them. Shout out to all the teams in the Women's Super League this year. I was super enthusiastic and I really enjoyed the one game I was able to go watch, which was my Sharks team. Western Province at City Park, which is down the road from Athlone in the Athlone Stadium. So it was a smaller stadium. Against so it's Western Province women versus my Sharks women. Unfortunately, my Sharks women lost. We were sort of outgunned. The Western Province team are significantly better than us right now. Although there are some really talented players within the Sharks women's team, I got to talk to a lot of the significant others and family members of the Sharks women's team. A lot of the Western Province women's team players who didn't get selected for the match 23, and because it was in Western Province, or were out of the match 23 because of injuries, so they were in the stands with crutches, and you might say like, how do you know they are a part of the team? Well, it's easy. They're shouting throughout the game for their teammates. Like the whole game, the one girl she had like a crutch on her right foot and taped up right foot and crutches and clothing, but she didn't stop shouting the whole game. And then we thought she was just like maybe a supporter or like out of the team, but as soon as the game ended, she was like on the field also shaking her head. So like, oh, she's also she would have been in the team if she hadn't bust her foot up. So that was awesome to see. And yeah, look, the we got outplayed, but the like you and Hattie, shout out to Hattie as well. Shout out to you as well. They always say that whenever you go to a women's rugby game, the vibe is way nicer for some reason. And I got to experience that for myself. But then I wanted to watch a few because the Western Province did have two other home games through that season, but unfortunately that month was not ideal for me in terms of going to watch live sports on a Saturday. So, and then what I will also shout out for Western Province is the games they had after that. It would have been great if they had another game at City Park because it's very convenient for me travel wise. But the other two games were at when I heard it would be in northern suburbs, I sort of wondered where it would be, but it's actually in a very sort of working class part of the northern suburbs that I have been in the vicinity of. So once I saw the venue, I was like, okay, it's not so bad. I can park here, I can just walk 4 kilometers to the stadium, that type of thing. But unfortunately, despite the venue being somewhat familiar to me, and with I was quite pleased that it was in a working class neighborhood. I just schedule wise, just couldn't go. So I look forward to the Women's Super League season next season. Guys, topic number 4 on the bill. We'll look at the Currie Cup Premier Division round 4. So let me bring that on the screen for us. Actually, we'll start with Griquas defeating in Kimberley, defeating Temikosi's Lions team. Temikosi, I can't remember in the pre-pod discussion. Did you get a moment to watch your team go down to Griquas on Saturday?
No, I actually didn't, but I
Ah,
watched the highlights and yeah, it went exactly how I expected. Bobby Alexander, Geshinwe, Dylan Mart. I went into the match knowing that those three probably will get a score each, and if I'm right, they all did. So yeah, tough game, tough game. Was But I think that the champions, they've been doing upset. I think so far they lost one match. I'm talking about the Freakers. They lost one match so far, but it seems like they're really going for like a title defense. And I like how they're kicked. I'm not sure if this is because they're champions. I think everywhere is gold. Their numbers is gold. All their sponsors is gold. I'm assuming it's because they're the champions. I like that about the team. I like that about the shirt. I mean.
yeah, they've really built a really strong squad there. They're going with Damian Marcus. Yes, they lost to sort of Stormers rotated team in the first round in Cape Town, but they've bounced back strong from then, and they're always formidable in Kimberley. Yeah, and a lot of their players are already contracted to depart at the end of this Currie Cup season for like uh the wing Mart is headed to the Bulls. But yeah, it's also a very rotated Lions team. Lions like Lions and the Bulls, like the Stormers and the Sharks of previous season, are rotating a little more structurally. So they're really pulling people into focusing on URC preseason as opposed to mixing them into the Currie Cup. At least in the early stages of the Currie Cup Premier Division, there are 7 rounds of regular season. Correct? Yep. So that's what happened to your. And we should also acknowledge that this is actually a replay of the final because Griquas defeated the Lions at Ellis Park in a different venue. It would have been great if Griquas actually get a final one day in Kimberley. I'm sure they'll actually pack that stadium. I mean, they pack that stadium for general games, SA Cup, everything. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Um, Bulls versus Pumas. Pumas going to Pretoria and actually defeating a very rotated Bulls team, but still a lot of blue chip young players within that, including Ndebele, who will be running out for my Sharks pretty soon. Um, uh, Christy, this is your team, but did you get a moment to watch this game?
You know, I almost stopped watching it because the discipline was truly some of the worst I've seen from the Bulls uh, so far in the past couple of seasons. I mean, we've never been the the most well-behaved team. But yeah, I mean, the discipline was just absolutely shocking. And I just think I always enjoy the Pumas because I like the shirt change. So at the end of the day, you know what? On the day, the Pumas were the better team. Don't have much to say about it because I was very grumpy about it, and it actually made me have a bit of a bad Saturday. But yeah, I guess coming back and almost winning it in the end gave me a bit of hope for the rest of the season. But I mean, at this point, it's like we've lost all four of our games so far, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, and then technically, I guess I should be also rooting for the Pumas, having grown up in Mpumalanga. But yeah, I'm still the Sharks all the way. We're white. When we were black, we're white with dynamite. And speaking of the Sharks, I in the preview pod, I didn't. I said I when I looked at the team sheets. I mean, you actually do have the team sheet here. Shout out to SA Rugby Mag for actually putting out the team sheets every week. So when I looked at the teams, I thought, this Boland's Cavalier team is like doing really well. And we've got quite a rotated young team. Yes, there's a lot of good young players. I mean, someone could argue, like, why are you playing Loan Gillemier if he's leaving for the Bulls in a couple of months' time? Well, the Bulls are playing him Ndebele. So, like, I guess we could have organized to like swap them early and get them out of the contracts early, but we kind of need a fullback and they kind of need a hooker. So it kind of works out as it were. But if I look across the team, I thought very young team. Oh, and we do also have to, before we even get into this game, we have to talk about the venue of this game. So the Sharks are pioneers in terms of this. Yes, the Sharks have a lot of issues, like our off the field issues, like our coaching, our management staff deciding to take the actual Sharks logo off of the where's the shark that I have around here somewhere, off of the shirt, and replacing it with SRC, which is Sharks Rugby Club, which could also be misinterpreted as online as Student Representative Council. So
Yeah.
things are not going well. They if you go on Reddit, we're really discussing maybe burning some stuff down, like maybe Kings Park or something. So we're having somewhat of an identity crisis online. But what I will say though is the Sharks did this last season very well, and then other teams followed suit. The Sharks twice last season took the game to the people. They played one game in Pietermaritzburg. They played one game in a sort of a more exterior part of the Durban municipality. And last year I kind of thought, like, how come they don't play a game in KwaMashu? Because they do have facilities in KwaMashu, and they do have, like, if you look at the stadium, it's not a bad facility in KwaMashu, and they had it. It was well attended, and it was a vibe. I was not there, but I watched all the videos. I watched obviously the game on TV, and I watched all the social media videos, even from some of the Sharks management stuff. And I understand that either the game was free to go to, or it was like a very nominal fee, like for the Spa Women's Super League game, it was just $10 at the gate. So maybe it was that type of thing. But yeah, whatever the Sharks management does, we'll agree with some decisions, we disagree with other decisions. But when they do positive stuff, like take the game to the community, give people have a negative perception of KwaMashu. This dispels much of that negative perception of the place. It's a working class suburb. There's ordinary people just like me and you there, and they love rugby as much as we do. And like many of the people on the outskirts of the Durban municipality don't have the means to like get to Kings Park every week. But if you take the game to them and then you defeat a very good Boland Cavaliers team, who one could argue they are better kind of in Wellington than they are on the road, and their record does state that, but you still have to beat them. And yeah, fantastic performances from Rambo Kubega, Bryce Calvert, Ngobese. A lot of these guys are going to play on Tuesday night again. So they started in this game against Boland in KwaMashu, and then they're going to play off the bench against the New Zealand team, against All Blacks. The other thing is that a lot of the players on the broader URC team for the Sharks who didn't get selected for this game, but are going to play against the All Blacks, they could have sat at home for this game. But no, if you look at the stands, they were there as well. Lily Bester was there. Lorenzo Julius was there. So it speaks to the fact that the management said, they're like, you guys got to get on the bus and go support your teammates. And maybe they didn't even have to ask them to do it. Maybe they were just happy to go support their teammates, which I hope is the case. But yeah, great performance. Lyle Matthews has been a sort of a revelation, mostly at wing, played inside center in this game. And yeah, but yes, the scoreline makes it seems like we dominated Boland per se, but it wasn't the case at all. Boland were within the game. They just had moments that the game just didn't quite go their way. So yeah, shout out to Boland for their performance as well. Jaden Bantam got a try as per usual. Hey, Boot, you need a Bantam. All the South Africans will know where that's from. So yeah, shout out to them, and we look forward to seeing what both teams can do. Actually think, despite this defeat, I think Boland can actually make the playoffs again this season. And then the last game we'll talk about is Letha's Cheetahs team coming down to Cape Town, Athlone Stadium, and defeating the Stormers with a fantastic performance. Your thoughts, Letha?
Oh, firstly, I want to say it was a difficult game, it was a tough game in terms of the approach. I think the boys from Bloom went in with an approach that they're gonna try to stick it up there and just make it a contestable battle. And when they got there, the different atmosphere. I mean, it was windy, so I think that also took away from us, just made it difficult. And surprisingly, the Stormers actually stood out, and in terms of defense, I mean, they put us under pressure, set piece, and also just our lineups. Obviously, we had a lot of lineups, but we lost a couple of them because of just the wind and them contesting in our lineouts. So that was our first disruption. Just that wind playing that role, and I think it became just a dogfight. I mean, it was a real battle. The Stormers came out just to make sure they try and get this game on the belt. But yeah, credit to the guys and just the gutsy performance to stick out there and just play the entire game, and just Faf trying to control it with all the experience and getting the guys together. I think discipline at some point also just hit us a bit, but I think this game could have gone any other way, because at some point it was 26 all, which was just seated there, or just watching and waiting which team will make the mistake to give other team another chance before the game ends. And fortunately, it was the cheater that got the chance, and who are in the Springbok to close it off, with Faf scoring in the corner, which is great to watch, man.
Yeah, I think you have a good point there, because I mean I'm in Cape Town and we've been having really sketchy weather these last few days. The wind was incredibly cold today, very unpleasant this evening. When I was out and about, temperatures were quite low. I think it was a high of like 13 today, even lower if you're like in the shade and that type of thing. So it's a sort of unpredictable wind as well. It seems like the Argentinian wind was here in Cape Town for some reason a day later. But yeah, these are your teammates, Letha. So we're going to put you on the spot. Which of these guys would you not let date your sister?
If I had a sister, then I'll be able to answer that. But hey, I don't have a sister.
Thankfully, that's the most politically correct answer. Is the go back to
That
training
was a
tomorrow
nice
and
dodge.
yeah, and be like, hey, can I just talk to you about what you said? They do that a lot on NFL content. They go around the change room and they be like, who wouldn't you let date your sister? Thankfully, I also don't have a problem because I only have brothers, so it's not gonna work on me either. Guys, I really appreciate everybody's time. Like and subscribe and click the notification bell if you're watching this and you found value to it. Thank you, Tembi Kosi, for always joining me every week. Thank you for Christy and Letha for joining us for the first time. We hope to see you guys again. And yeah, to everybody, as we say every week, in Rasi, we trust.